Okay. Hello everyone. I am Amitanshu Pal and welcome to the course on Introduction to Problem Solving and Programming in Python. So this course was designed mainly for the beginners in Python programming, and therefore we are going to start from very basics and then we'll gradually go into more and more details. Okay. So first, let me give you some background information on how these videos were created. So the videos were originally recorded as part of the course CIS 1051 at Temple University. And on top of these recorded videos, I have made some edits, additions, and deletions. So in general, the videos were not as professionally developed as other online lectures, but nevertheless, you will get a very good understanding or conceptual understanding regarding the material discussed. Now let's come to the textbook. So for this course, I have used the textbook named Python for Everyone, which is written by K. Horstman and Rance Nickes. And therefore, the course material, including the slides as well as the examples, were largely obtained from this textbook. So with this, let's first learn some background regarding the Python programming. So Python was developed by Guido van Rossum in early 1990s. And it was designed to have a much simpler and cleaner syntax than other popular languages. In fact, because of this reason, it is much easier to learn as well. And over time, the language has been used in several areas, including web and game development, computer vision, data science, and machine learning. And currently, this is one of the fastest growing programming languages. So in this course, we'll learn different procedural programming constructs like conditional statements, loops, and functions. And in addition to that, I'm also going to briefly cover object-oriented programming techniques like encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. And most interestingly, we'll solve different application-oriented programming problems as we move forward. Now let's come to the installation details. So like any other programming languages, we need an interpreter to run a Python code. So simply speaking, an interpreter reads your program and then executes it. And other than the interpreter, we'll also use an IDE or integrated development environment where you can write your code, debug, and run. So in general, you can use any IDE that you prefer. But for this course, I will use the PyCharm IDE for all my in-class examples. Okay. So let me first show you how to install the Python interpreter. Just go to the Google and write Python download. Okay. So here, if you click this link, you will see that download the latest version for Windows. If you use Windows, you can click on this link. Otherwise, Mac, Linux, for different platforms, you can click the corresponding links. Okay. So if you click download Python, this is the latest version. In my computer, I have already installed it, so I am not going to reinstall it. Okay. But you can check whether you can download the recent version or not. Okay. If it is not matching with your Windows version, then you need to go to the download and check other releases, which is going to take you to your previous version. Okay. So to check whether your Python interpreter is working properly or not after the installation, just go here and type Python. So here you will see IDLE. You click on this. So if your installation is correct, then it should open a shell like this. Okay. So here you can type 5 plus 6. So it is giving you 11. Okay. So you can check by putting any arithmetic operation 10 into 8. 8. Okay. Or you can write print, say hello. So it is going to print hello. Okay. Print today is Tuesday. So it is going to print whatever you are printing inside this code. Okay. So that means your Python installation is correct. All right. So after installing the interpreter, the next job is to install an IDE. IDE means integrated development environment. Okay. So the installation of IDE is optional, but it is always good to install the one of the IDE, because IDE gives you the environment where you can write your code, debug your code, run your code. Okay. So it gives you a user-friendly environment that you can link it to your interpreter and run your code. Okay. So let me show you so that it will be even more clear. So there are a number of IDE that you can use for running your code. I am going to use PyCharm. You can see PyCharm, a Python IDE for professional developer. Now, it is not mandatory that you have to use the same IDE. Okay, I use it because I feel it more comfortable. There are a number of other IDEs that you can use. If you feel that you're more comfortable with those IDEs, feel free to use it. Okay, IDE is a place where you can write your program, run it, debugging, and all those things. Okay, so let me show you how to install the PyCharm IDE. So if you click on the PyCharm IDE, if you go to the download, you will see that there are two options. First one is professional, second one is community. Okay, so the professional version gives you a lot of features, okay, but it is not free. So for all purpose of this course, we are going to concentrate on this community version, and whatever feature they provide is more than sufficient for this course. Okay, so the community version is free and open source, so you can download it. So if you click download, you can save it. So it will take some time. And once you finish, you can click on it. So you can run it, and then you need to do next. Okay, I'm not doing it once more because I have already installed it, so it will result in duplicate installation. Okay, but you can just run it and do just like the any other softwares. Okay, so I'm just canceling it. So once you install it, if it installed properly, if you click over here, you will see that PyCharm Community Edition. Okay, I have installed the Community Edition, not the Professional Edition. Okay, because it is free. So we click over here. It will take some time to open. So let it open. In the meantime, whenever it is opening, let me open a folder for your class. And let me call it 1051 Spring 2021. So all the material that I'm going to discuss will be in this folder. Okay. All right. So I can open CIS 1051 Spring 2021. Okay. So this is my folder. I'm just clicking OK. All right. So basically, I have went to this folder. Okay. So now let's open a new file. okay, inside this folder, and let's write some very simple Python code. So for opening a new file, I will click on this file, new, and let's write say basics.py. .py means it is a Python file. Okay? .py is the Python extension. Whatever name you can choose, .py. Okay. So click, this will open a file for you. Yeah. Now let's see whether your installation and everything is working perfectly or not. So checking, first type say print 2 plus 3. Okay. So once you type this, the next job is to add the configuration. Okay, before running you need to add the configuration. You write something, then you type add configuration. So if you type add configuration, you can get this window into add Python. Okay, click Python. Here you need to give a name, say first program, something like that. And then in the script path you need to link the path wherever your program resides. So click here, and my program is residing in this folder. Inside this folder, the name of my file is basics.python. So I'll click on this, click OK, and then so I click OK. All right. Basically, I'll link it to the corresponding path name, and then I click OK. So once you do this, you will see that it is no longer will show you add configuration. It is going to show you first program, and you will see that there is an arrow over here. Okay, so if you put your cursor over here, you will see that run first program. That means if you want to run this program, you need to click this arrow. Okay, this arrow is basically for running your program. So if you run it, you will see that the output is going to be 5. So print 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, so that means all my installation and everything is perfect. Clear? Similarly, if I write print hello world, and if I run it, you will see 5 hello world. Okay, so whatever you are going to write inside your code will be considered as string. All right, whatever you are going to write inside the code can be considered as string. And instead of double quote, you can also write single quote. So both double quote and single quote will behave similarly. Okay, both will be considered as your string. Clear? So this is numeric and this is string. Or you can mix the numeric as well with the string also. So for example, you can print my favorite number is 5 plus 4 and 7 plus 3. Okay, so if you click it, it is going to write my favorite number is 9 and 10. My favorite number is 9 and 10. Okay, so here you are printing both the string as well as the numeric simultaneously. Okay, now suppose in the next line you want to give a gap. In the next line you do not want to print anything, so you can just write print nothing. Print nothing means it is going to give a gap in between two lines. Okay, so for example, after this gap you are printing say goodbye. All right, and if you run it, it is going to print my favorite number is 9 and 10. Then for this print, it is going to give a gap. That means this line there is nothing. You are basically printing empty string. And then after a gap, it is writing print goodbye. Okay. Now notice that for while running, you do not need to click it again and again. Okay. If you put your cursor over here, it is going to show you run first program, shift F10. Okay, that means instead of clicking it, if you just click Shift F10, it is going to run your program. Okay, so you can either run your program by clicking into this arrow, otherwise you can just from your keyboard you can type Shift F10. Yeah. Okay, now the next thing is that if you want to comment out anything, okay, so for example, if you want to write something for your convenience as a comment, okay, so for example you can write print 5. So this print 5 is going to be ignored by your interpreter because it is after hash. Okay, whatever is after hash is considered as comment. The interpreter is going to ignore this. Okay, so if you want to comment out some line, you can also put hash before that. So here, for example, you can write print hello, and then you can run it. So it should work properly. Clear? The next thing is one special character called /n. So suppose you are putting /n over here. My favorite number is /n 5 plus 4 and 7 plus 3. So what this /n is doing, if you run it, you'll see that my favorite number is, then whatever is the remaining part is going into the next line. Okay. So /n is basically a special character for next line or new line. Clear? Similarly, /t. /t means tab. It's a special character called tab. So it is giving an extra space. You will see there is an extra space. Okay. So /n means new line, /t means tab, or it's a extra space. Okay. So there are some special character that also you can bring inside your string. Okay. So let's open new file. So new file, and then write say numbers.python. Okay, so let's learn some data types, and then after that we are going to learn some arithmetic operations. Okay. So why do we need different data types? Data types are basically, data types are variables are for storing different numbers. You want to store some numbers, or you want to store some strings, or you want to store some character. For that we need variables. And variables can be of different data types. It can be integer, floating point, string, and all this. Okay. So let's see. Let's start from some very basics. So let's say x equal to 5. Okay, that means x is a variable that is storing the value 5. Okay. And if you print x, you can print the value of x is x. Okay, so let's run this program. Now if you want to run it, you need to again, or if you want to run a new program, you need to again change the configuration, or you need to again edit the configuration. Okay, if you do not edit the configuration, run it, it is going to run your previous file. Clear? For running a new file, you need to first edit the configuration, and then you need to again link your path. So the new file is number.python. This is my new file. Okay, so if I run it, you will see that value of x is x. Clear? So this is variables. Variables means it is storing some information in the form of integer, float, and whatever. Now let's see what is the type of x. So print type of x. So type is a function that is provided by the interpreter. Clear? And now if you run it, we'll going to show. Okay. So type of x means what is the type of x? Is it x is an integer or float or string or what? What is the type? So if you print type of x, it is showing class integer. That means it falls in the integer class. Okay. Now Later on, I'm going to cover what class means. Okay. For the time being, just concentrate on the second argument, which is integer. That means the type of x is integer. This is indeed an integer type. Clear? All right. Now let's see. So suppose you want to, instead of an integer 5, you want to write say 10.51, some fractional number. Okay. So this is not an integer. This is a float or fractional number. So here you can write value of y is y. So if you run it, it's going to print value of y is 10.51. Let's see the type of y. So print type of y. So here it is showing that y is of float type, because y is not an integer, it is indeed float or fractional number. Clear? So this is initializing an integer. This is initializing a float. Now let's see, let's come to string. Say z equal to Bob. Okay. This is initializing a string. Now here you are printing the value of z is z. So if you, the value of z is Bob, and if I print type z, it should give me class string. Okay, let's give a gap. It's a class string. Now let's see. You can add different variable. So print say x plus y. Okay, print x plus y means it is going to give 15.51. So 10.51 plus 5 is 15.51. Okay, and if you print type of x plus y, is going to give class float. So this is a floating point. Okay. Now let's see. So you can add one integer with a floating point. Okay. But now if I write print z plus say 5, z is a string, 5 is a numeric value. Okay. So if I click run, it will going to give an error because z is a string, 5 is a numeric value. So these are incompatible. Okay, you cannot add the both. Clear? But if you can convert 5 to string or character, okay, by putting a quote outside 5, then it should work. It is printing Bob 5. Bob means z, 5 it is adding after that. Okay, print z plus within quote 5. Within quote 5 means this becomes a string. This is no longer an integer. Whatever is inside quote, either single quote or double quote, it becomes a string. Yeah. So basically you are adding two strings. Adding two strings means you are concatenating two strings. Okay. In Python, plus will be considered as an addition operator if both values are numeric. If both x and y are numeric, that means if you add these two, it is going to add the values of x and y. If both are string, it will be considered as an concatenation operator. It is going to concatenate both string. Clear? So plus can be used both as an additional operator in case of numeric values as well as a concatenation operator in case of string. So in this way, you can basically play with different types of variables and you can combine different variables, numeric or string, but you cannot combine a numeric value with a string value. Okay. Now let's see. So let's open another file and do some basic arithmetic. So this is about different numbers or variables. Let's do some arithmetic operation. Here I have shown you some very simple arithmetic operation, but let's do some real arithmetic operation on top of variables. So let's get a new file. So file, new file, arithmetic.python. Okay, so let's write a program that is going to calculate the area of a circle and volume of a, say, cylinder. Okay, let me write a program that will do some computation. So till now we are talking about variables. Let's do some arithmetical computation. All right. So what is the area of a circle? Let's first consider area of a circle. Later on I'm going to calculate the volume of a cylinder. So area of a circle is pi into radius square, right? So let's first type the value of pi. Value of pi is 3.14, right? Now the value of pi will not change throughout the course of the program, right? So these kind of variables we call constants. These are constant. Okay, and constant variable we conventionally write using capital letter. All right, this is not mandatory, but this is conventional just to discriminate that these variables are constant. These values are not going to change throughout the course of the program. Okay, unlike x equal to 5, x is written in small letter. Constants are always written in capital letter. Okay, so the area of a circle is pi r square or radius square. So we need the radius. Okay, so I can either write a radius equal to something, but to make the program more flexible or user friendly, I want to write it in such a way that the program will ask me enter the radius, and as a user I'm going to enter the radius. Okay, that means I'm trying to make the program little more interactive. Okay, so if I run the program is going to ask me on the output terminal that enter the radius, and then I'm going to enter the radius, click enter. It is going to give me the area of the circle. Clear? So I'm trying to make it a little more interactive. So I want the program to write enter the radius in the output terminal. Okay, and the program will take this as an input. Whatever I'm going to type after this, the program will take this as an input and store it in a variable called radius. All right, whatever I'm going to input will be stored as inside radius. So let's print radius. All right, so if I want to run this program, I need to again edit the configuration, link the actual file which is arithmetic, and then I can run it. So if I run it, you will see that it is asking me enter the radius. Okay, say I want to put 10.5 or something, so it is going to print 10.5. Yeah, so that means the program is asking me to enter the radius. Whatever I am entering will be considered as the input, and it will be stored in the radius variable, which I am printing in the next line. Clear? Now there is one very small problem. Let's print the type of radius. So enter the radius. I am putting 10.5. It is printing the radius and it is showing the type as string. Okay, so that means the reason is that this input function, whatever I am entering, this input function returns this as a string. Okay, whatever I am entering, the input function is returning this as a string. Okay, that's how the input function is written. So instead of 10.5, if I just write some string like this, okay, this will also be printed as the radius. Okay, but in the radius I do not want a string, I want a numeric value, right? Because I want to calculate the area of a circle. So I want a numeric value. Clear? So whatever the input is, before that I am writing a function called eval. Okay. What is eval? Eval will take the input and evaluate the numeric value. Okay, eval will take the input in string format and evaluate the numeric value. Okay, so now if I run it, let's see, instead of string what it is going to show. So 10.5, and at this point you can see that it is showing float. Clear? That means eval has converted this string that I am entering into float. So now my input is correct. Clear? Now instead of this eval function, you can also use float function. Okay. Float function means float will also take the input and convert it to a floating point number. Okay, so it is also converted to floating point. And if you know that your radius is integer, instead of float you can also type int. Okay, so you can also type int, but in this case you need to make sure that your radius is integer, otherwise it is going to give you wrong result. Clear? So int, float, both of this is going to take the input in string format and then will convert it to integer and floating point respectively. And in general, irrespective of your input is integer or floating point, eval function will take the string and convert it to its corresponding numeric value. It may be integer, it may be floating. Okay, but based on your input type, you can use any of these three. Yeah. Okay, so once I enter the radius properly, then the remaining part is very simple, because I can simply write the area of the circle is pi multiplied by radius multiplied by radius. Okay, so let's run it. Let's put 10.5, and it is showing that the area of the circle is 346.185. Let me check using the calculator. So open the calculator and type 3.14 into 10.5 into 10.5. So 346.185. 346.185. So that means my answer is correct. So you have learned how to take input from the user. Instead of writing radius equal to something, you are basically taking input from the user and then using that value to calculate something. So this part is going to calculate the area of the circle. Next, I'm going to calculate the volume of the cylinder. Okay. So what is the volume of a cylinder? Volume of a cylinder, the formula is pi radius square into height. So pi radius square, assume that I will use the same radius. Okay, so the pi radius square I have already calculated. I need to get the height from the user. I'm going to take it in the same way. I'm going to ask the user that enter the height and then use the eval function and then store the input in a floating point format inside a variable called height, and then I'm going to write the formula. So basically I'm again going to ask the user to enter the height, and the user is going to input it. So I'm going to take the input, convert it to the numeric value and store it in a variable called height. So let's print height and let's print the volume of the cylinder is pi multiplied by radius multiplied by radius multiplied by height. pi r square h. Okay. So if I run it, it is going to first ask enter the radius, say 10.5. The area of the circle is calculated. Now it is asking what is the height. So height, let's call it, I'm putting 10. So the value of the cylinder is 3461 into 85, which is very easy to check because the area into height is basically the point will go after 1. So 3461.85. Okay. So this is a very simple example, but using this example, you have learned a number of small points. Okay. You have learned how to take input from the user, convert it from string to your corresponding numeric value, and then use it for computing something. All right. Okay. Now let's see. Let's do some more arithmetic. So let's learn different types of arithmetic function. Okay. So more arithmetic. So let's see. So you can type print. So instead of addition, you can do different type of arithmetic operation, subtraction, for example. So if you want to run this program, you need to again edit the configuration. Okay. So if you run it, 5 minus 10 is minus 5. Division operation, you can write 5 by 10, which is 0.5. Multiplication operation, you can write 5 10 is going to give you 50. Okay. All right. Now let's try to, these are very simple operation. Let's try to learn other arithmetic operation. Okay. All right. So let's see 100 divided by 9. 100 divided by 9 is what? 11 point something. So 11.111. Okay. Now suppose I want only the integer portion. Okay. I want only the integer portion of this division. What should I do? I can simply write print 100 slash slash 9. Okay. Double slash means it is going to give you integer division. Double slash means integer division. So if you run it, it is going to give you 11. Okay. So single slash means it is division. Double slash means integer division. Okay. Double slash means integer division. Clear? Okay. Now suppose you want to divide 100 by 9 and want to find the remainder. Instead of the integer division, you want to find the remainder. So what is integer division? Integer division means it is basically the quotient, right? If you remember, you are dividing 100 by 9. So integer division is basically the quotient. 11 is going to be the quotient. And what is going to be the remainder? For finding on the remainder, we need to use 100 mod 9. Okay, this is mod or remainder. This is called mod or remainder. Okay. So this is going to give 100 mod 9 is going to give what? Can you just calculate? If we divide 100 by 9, what is going to be the remainder? Remainder is going to be 1, right? So it is going to give you 1. All right. So that means you have learned two operators. One is for finding the quotient or integer division and the remainder. Okay. And if you just write slash, it is going to give you the division output in a floating point format. All right. But both quotient as well as the remainder are integer. Your division output may be floating point, but both quotient and remainder are integer. Okay. All right. So let's use this and solve a very small problem. So suppose I gave you few pennies. PNN like this. Okay. Suppose I gave you say 1, 5, 629 pennies. Okay, and I am asking you how many dollars and how many cents you have. I gave you 15,629 pennies. I'm asking you how many dollars and cents you have. Okay, so basically write a code. I know you can calculate in hand, but write a code for finding out the dollars and cents. Okay, and using this integer division and modular operator. Okay, so how can I find out the number of dollars and cents from these pennies? So the dollars, the number of dollars equal to pennies, integer division 100, right? And number of cents is pennies mod or modular division 100. Then you can write I have dollars and cents. So if I run it, I have $156.29. Okay, all right, now let's see some other functions as well. Say I want to find out the absolute value, other mathematical function. So absolute value, what is an absolute? What is an absolute value? Suppose I have a number, say minus 15.675. What is the absolute value of x? Absolute value gives the positive of that corresponding number, right? So there is a function called abs. So abs means it is basically going to return the absolute value of that variable. So if I print, it should give 15.675. That's the absolute value. Okay, suppose you want to round a variable. Round means nearest integer. Okay, a round of a floating point means its nearest integer. So suppose you have a variable, say y equal to 15.675. Okay, so I want to get the round of this number. Okay, so there is a function called round. So round of y, print round of y should give 16 because the nearest integer is the next integer. Okay, so round of y is 16. Clear? All right. Then minimum and maximum value, minimum and maximum function. Okay, so suppose you want to find minimum of, say, a bunch of numbers 5, 10, 60, minus 5, 2, 3, 89, 71, something like that. Okay, so minimum is a function that is going to return the minimum of all these numbers. So if you type int minimum of this, then you should return minus 5. Minus 5 is the minimum of all these numbers. Okay, similarly, if you, instead of minimum, if you put maximum, it should return the maximum of all these numbers, which is 89. So basically I'm showing you different types of mathematical function that you are going to use frequently. Okay, let's see power. So 2 to the power 100 or 5 to the power 5, we use these functions, right? So how to calculate the power? So in Python, suppose I want to calculate 2 to the power 10, you will write 2 to the power means double multiplication. okay, or double star. So 2 double star 10 means to the power 2 to the power 10. Okay, so if I print 2 star star 10, that means it should give me 2 to the power 10. Okay, this means 2 to the power. Okay, so 2 to the 10 is 1024. Clear? 2 to the power 11 is 2048. Okay, so you can check by changing the power. Clear? So power means it is double multiplication. Okay, so double division means, or double slash means integer division, double star means power. Okay, similarly 10 to the power 5, 10 star star 5. All right, now let's do some slightly different type of function. Suppose you want to calculate square root of something. Okay, so the corresponding function is sqrt. Sqrt means square root. Okay, so square root of 100. Square root of 100 is what? 10, right? So if you find out the square root of 100, I am printing square root of 100. So whenever I am printing sqrt of 100, you will see that it is showing some red underline. Okay, that means there is some issue. This, if I put my cursor on it, it is showing unresolved reference sqrt. Okay, so what's happening? And if I click run, it is going to print name square root sqrt not defined. Okay, that means there is some issue, but sqrt function is the correct function. I didn't make any error. So the problem is this sqrt function resides inside the math library or math package. Okay, so you need to import the corresponding function from the math library before using it. Okay, so by default, if you just write a sqrt, it is going to give you trouble. You need to import this from the math library. Okay, you need to import this function from the math library. How to do this? You can write from math import square root. Okay, from math library or math package import the square root function. Now you will see that this red underline is gone. Okay, and now if you run it, it should give you 10.0. Clear? That means you have successfully imported the square root function from the math library. Let's see. Suppose you want to find out the or use the log function. So log of say 100 base 10. Okay. Log function, the syntax is log whatever value you want to find out, base whatever base you want to use. It may be 10, log base 2, log base e, whatever. Okay. So log value base whatever your base number. That's the syntax. And you, if I want to print it, I can write this, but now also you will see that it is showing a red underline. That means there is a problem. And again, if I run it, it is going to give name log not defined. That means there is an issue. And the issue is exactly the same. Log also resides in the math package, so you need to import it. So from math import log. Okay. Now the red underline will be gone. If you run it, you will get 2 because log of 100 base 10 is 2, right? 100 is 10 square. So the 100 base 10 is equal to 2. Similarly, suppose I want to find out sine, cos, or tan kind of value. Okay, so sine of 10 or sine of 100, for example. If I want to print sine of 100, here also I am going to, it is going to show me a red underline. And here is the same problem because the sine function also resides inside the math package. Okay, so again I need to import from math import sine. So now it is going to give me the correct answer and there is no read underline. So I've shown you the example of sine. You can do sine, cos, tan, sine hyperbolic, tan hyperbolic and all those things, okay, using the same technique. But in any program, if you want to use this kind of mathematical functions again and again, then putting all the or importing all these different functions is very tedious, right? So instead of doing this, you can comment all of them and can write from math import star. Okay, import star means whatever functions are there inside the math package, import all of them. Okay, and now also you can see that whenever I'm putting import star, it is not going to give any red underline. Okay, if I remove this line, you will see that the red underlines will come, and if I run it, it's going to give me the errors. If I just remove this, then the red underline is gone. That means my import is successful, and if I run it, it will work perfectly. Okay, all right, so that's pretty much about different mathematical functions. Simple or very frequently used mathematical functions is power, integer division, modular division, square root, sine, cos. All these things you need to use very frequently, so you know how to do all these things. Okay, now this IDE, along with providing the programming environment, it also provides a console. You will see if there is a Python console. Okay, if you click on the Python console, it is going to open a console for you. So console is nothing but whatever you are writing over here, you can just type it over here, it is going to give you the correct output. Okay, so for example, print 2 to the power 11. Okay, this is also going to give you the correct answer, 2048. All right, print square root of 100. If you just type it, it is going to give you the error because square root is not defined. All right, but you can, if you write from math import, sorry, import square root. Okay, let me write it once more. From math imports square root, if you type it, you will see that square root is included over here. Okay, and now if you type print square root of 100, it is going to give you the correct answer. Clear? So whatever you are writing in this file and running it, you can write on the console also and run it. Clear? Instead of writing math from math import square root, if you just write math dot import star, put enter, you will see that all the functions will be included. Cos hyperbolic, sine hyperbolic, all the mathematical function will be included. Okay, and now you can print log 100 base 10. So all these things will give you the correct answer. Okay. Now I am going to show you what are the different string functionality Python provides. Okay, so let's open a new file and then let's name it strings or something, string.python. So before going into any details, let me first edit the configuration and add the path. So string. Okay, so here in this program I'm going to show you all different types of basic functionality that you will come across as far as string is concerned. Okay, so let's take a simple string, hello world. All right, So Python provides a functionality called len. Okay, len means it is going to give you the length of the string. Okay, suppose you want to find out how many characters are there in a string, the corresponding function is length. Right, so if you print length, it should give you the number of characters. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and these 3 and this space, these 3 and this space is going to make it 40. All right, if it is an empty string, say x is an empty string, then the corresponding length is 0. The corresponding length is going to be equal to 0. Okay, so length is the simplest function. Next, learn string concatenation. String concatenation means, suppose I gave you two strings, you want to merge those two strings to form a single string. Okay, so for example, the first name of a person is Harry, the second name of a person is Potter. So the full name is, you can write as first name plus second name. Okay. So here plus is basically the concatenation operator. All right, so string concatenation can be represented using plus operator. Plus means it is going to concatenate both strings. So if you print full name, you should be able to find Harry Potter. Okay, suppose you want to give a space in between the first name and the second name, so you need to write first name concatenated by a space, a string which is a space, and then concatenated by the second name. Okay, so here this is also a string. All right, so if you run it, it should give you Harry space Potter. All right, okay, so this is all about concatenation operator. Let's learn string repetition. So string repetition can be represented using star operator. So plus in arithmetic is addition. Okay, in the context of string, the same plus can be used as concatenation operator. Okay, star in arithmetic is product or multiplication. In string context, it is repetition. All right, so suppose, say, assume that this is a string. This is a string. String means anything that is inside single quote or double quote, that is string. Okay, so suppose I am putting a dash like this. This is a string. Okay, now I want to print it, say, 100 times. Okay, so dash 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 dash, dash, dash 100 times. So what should I do? I can either write dash 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 100 times, okay, which is tedious. Otherwise I can do dash star 100. This means dash will be repeated, this string will be repeated 100 times. Okay, so if you print dash, you will see that you will get a repeated dash of dash 100 times. All right, you can increase it 100 to 160 or so, so it will basically fill up the entire space. Okay, instead of dash, if you start with a, for example, you'll have a 100 times. Clear? So in the string context, start instead of multiplication, it will consider as repetition. Right, okay, now converting integer floating point string and vice versa. This we have learned. Let's quickly revise it. Okay. So suppose you have a salary of say 8,000.50. Okay, 800 by 8,000.50. So this is what? This is a float type, right? If I print the type of salary, it should print type or class float. This is the float type, right? Now suppose I want to convert it to a string. So what should I do? I can write salary string equal to str salary. Okay. So str is going to convert it to string. Clear? So if I print type of salary string, it should give class string. Okay. So here the value is not changing. Okay. If we just print salary comma type salary and here salary string comma type of salary string, you will get that the value, you will see that the value is not changing, but its type is changing. Okay, the value are the same, the type is changing from float to string. Okay. So it may happen that you are taking the salary from the program and then suppose you are printing it to a file, and you, in that file you need to print it in a string format. So in that case you first need to convert that value to a string and then you can print it in the file. Okay. Or it can be the opposite operation. You are taking from the file which is in a string format, then you need to convert it to an integer or float, right? So you need to do the opposite operation. Okay. Say a is equal to 1729. Okay. Here a is an string. Suppose you want to convert it to an integer. Okay. So here if you print a and type of a, you should give that this is a string. Okay. Let's put a space over here. So now at this point this is a string. Now suppose you convert it to an integer, a int equal to int of a. Okay, and here a int type of a int. If you type, you see that in both cases values are the same. First one is string format, second one is integer format. Okay, so here int means you are basically converting from strings to integer. Okay, here you can also use eval function. Eval function can also be used. Okay, eval means it is going to evaluate the value. Okay? Otherwise, if you know that this is an integer, you can use int function also. Anything is fine. Okay. Similarly, b is equal to say 17.29. B is a float, so print b type of b, and then b float equal to, you can either use float function or you can use eval function. So the type is float. Clear? So instead of float, you can also use eval function, as I said. Any one of these two is fine. So in this way, you can convert from one system to another. You can convert from string system to numeric or numeric system to string, as you wish. Okay, using these functions. All right, now let's see. Now suppose you have a string, say Harry Potter. Now suppose you want to access the string character by character. Say first you want to print the first character in the string, or you want to print the fourth character in the string. Okay, so how can you print it? You can just do print name within square bracket the index that you want to print. Okay, so the first character is going to be name of 0. You remember that in Python the index start from 0, not 1. Alright, so first character means index 0, second character means index 1, third character means index 2, in this way. Okay, so a character starts from 0, so that means this is the first character. Okay, so if you print it, it should print H. Okay, if you print name of 4, it should print Y. Okay, 0 1 2 3 4 Y. Clear? Okay, now suppose I am asking you to print the last character in the string. What is going to, what are you going to print? I mean, this can be any string, right? Today is Tuesday. So how can you print the last character? I can do name within bracket len of name -1. Okay, because the index starts from 0. So if length is 5, the last character is going to be of index 4 because it starts from 0. Clear? So last character is Y. Okay, so given a string that can be of any length, you need to do name length of name -1. Okay, now in Python you can also write name of -1. Okay, name of -1 means the first character but from the opposite end. Okay, name of -1 means first character but of opposite end. Length of -2 means A because second character from the end. Okay, length of -2 is A. So in this way. Clear? Another thing that we need to note is that in Python you cannot change any character. So for example, you cannot write name of 4 equal to say X. Okay, here 4 is Y, name of 4 is Y. You cannot write name of 4 equal to X. Okay, suppose I want to change from Y to X or something, I cannot write name of 4 equal to X. That will give me an error because string object does not support item assignment. You cannot assign anything to string. Clear? So this is not allowed. This is not allowed. In Python, this kind of operation is not allowed. Clear? Okay. Now suppose you want to convert this entire string from lowercase to uppercase. So how can you do so? There is a function. If you type name dot, you will see that it will give you all different functions. Okay, name dot lower. Okay, and similarly name dot upper should be there. Okay, so name dot upper will convert everything, all the characters to uppercase. Similarly, name dot is alpha will check whether it is alpha character or not. Alpha character means A to Z. Okay, so all these things, whether it is digit means whether it is digit or not. Okay, whether it is lowercase character or not, whether it is uppercase character or not. AL num means alphanumeric. That means we will consider both alphabets and numerics. Okay, so all these things you can, all these different functionality you can use. So if you want to convert a string to uppercase, you need to use name dot upper. Okay, that will convert the string to uppercase. So if you print uppercase at this point, you'll see that entire string is converted to uppercase. All right. Similar operation is lowercase. So name dot lower will convert everything to lowercase. All right. Now let's see. If you remember, if I write name dot, there is also another function called replace. Okay, so what replace means? Suppose instead of writing Harry Potter, today is Tuesday, I want to write Hello Potter, today is Tuesday. So I want to convert ARRY to ELLO. Okay. So I need to, suppose I want to replace um, ARRY with ELLO. Okay. So say let's call it new string or something. Okay. And if I print new string, run it, you will see that instead of Harry Potter, today is Tuesday, it is saying Hello Potter, today is Tuesday. So here ARRY is replaced by ELLO. Okay. So name dot replace means you can replace a particular occurrences of a string with a different string. All right. Okay. Now let's see. So there are different functionality I have shown over here. Now let's learn some printing techniques. Suppose I want to print he said and within quote hello. He said hello. Now this kind of sentence is slightly difficult to print because if you print within quote he said hello, then it will be a trouble. Okay, if you run this, generally whatever sentence we want to write, we basically print it inside double quote, right? Now if I take this string and print inside double quote, then that will be a trouble because the compiler will interpret this as the first string because this is inside double quote, these are the second string, and in the middle this will be an error because this is nothing, not a string, so it suddenly came in the middle. So if you run this will give an error, syntax error. Okay, but what I try to print is that I want to print he said within bracket hello, within quote hello, right? So in this case you need to type a special character called slash. Okay, so slash quote means after slash, if the IDE will see a quote, that means it will ignore this slash. Okay, here also after slash, if it will see a quote, it is going to ignore this slash. Okay, so here slash is special character. Okay, it will not be printed. Slash is a special character. Okay, so if you run it here, it will print he said hello. So slash is ignored because after slash, if there is a quote, that slash is going to be considered as a special character, it will not be printed. Okay. Okay. So suppose I want to print something like this. Path is within quote C slash or backslash desktop slash plus text dot txt. Okay. So suppose you want to print the path of the file text dot txt in this format. All right. Okay. So let's see what happens if we want to print this. So let's put this entire sentence inside a quote. Now again, suppose you want to run it. So if you run it, you will see that there will be a trouble. Okay. All right. So let's put a slash before this quote and before this quote. Okay. Because I want these quotes to be inside that sentence. Correct. So now it is printing something, but you can see that class, and after that there is a big space ext.txt. So you can see that instead of slash t, it has put a space. Okay, basically it is considering this slash t as a tab. All right, that's why instead of printing slash t, it has printed a space. How can we get rid of this? You can put an extra slash t before this tab. Okay, so now if we run it, you'll see that path is C desktop plus text.txt. So now this text.txt is coming as it is. Okay. So in case of these special characters like /t or /n, if you want to print something like this, then you need to put an extra slash before it. Okay. You need to put an extra slash before these special characters like /t, /n, or something like that. Okay. Okay. New line character, you know, right? New line character is /n, right? Similar to /t. /t is a tab. New line character is /n. So he said /n. You print, it is going to add a new line. He said new line hello. Okay. So suppose I am printing, say, */n */n */n. Okay. So it will be star 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 3 star. Okay. So 1 star new line, 2 star new line, 3 star. Okay. You can add 2 star new line, another 1 star new line. This is going to give you one side of a diamond. Okay. So you can play with it. All right. Okay. Now let's see some printing format. Printing format is very important. So suppose I want to print the division of 10 by 9 is 10 by 9. Okay. So division of 10 by 9 is 1.1111, and after that it was rounded. Right. Okay. Now suppose I want to format this printing style. Okay. Suppose I do not want to print so many ones. There are too many ones. Suppose I want to print 3 ones after the point. How do I specify? Let's see. So I can print the division of 10 by 9 is %f %10 by. Okay. So what is %f? Let's try to understand. %f is the placeholder for floating points. So 10 by 9 is a floating point on fractional. So this is a placeholder. That means %f is going to be, %f is going to be replaced by the value of 10 by 9. Okay, so if I print this, %f is going to be replaced by the value of 10 by 9. Okay, so %f is the placeholder for floating point. %d is a placeholder for integer. %f, the %s is a placeholder for string. Okay. All right. So now by default, if you write %f, by default %f prints 6 digits after the point. Okay. If you do not specify anything, by default it prints 6 digits after the point. Now suppose I want to print only 2 digits after the point. Okay. So in that case you can write 0.2f. 0.2f means it will print 2 digits after the point. Okay. So 1.11, 2 digit after the point. Okay. If you want to print 3 digits after the point, it will be 1.111. Clear? Now there is another thing. So in many places you will see 6.3. Okay, or say 10.3. So what is 10.3 means? 3f means 10.3f means in total it will take 10 digit space, including 3 digits after the point. Okay, in total it will take 10 digit space, including 3 digits after the point. So we print it, the printing format will be like this. In total it will take 10 digit space, including 3 digits after the point. Yeah. Okay, now if you print the division of 10 by 9 is %d instead of %f, if you put %d, then let's see what happens. If you put %d, that means the %d is a placeholder for an integer. Okay, so that means it will only print the integer portion, which is 1. So if you run this, it will only print 1 because %d is a placeholder for integer. Okay, and here also the same rule will apply. If you put 6%6d, that means in total it will take a space of 6 digit. Okay, so if you write this, print this, in total it will take 6 digit. As that is not enough digits, you will get a space in front of 1. Okay, okay, so you can specify your own printing. Okay, so here you will see that 10.2f. 10.2f means in total it will take 10 space, including 2 space after the point. That's what 10.2 means. Clear? And this is called the 10.2f is called the format specifier. Alright, you can specify it format. As the picture is showing, in total it will take 10 space, including 2 spaces after the point. Now let's see. So in general, whenever you write 10.2f, it will be printed in the right hand side. Okay, so it will take a total of 10 space, including 2 space after the point, but it will be printed in the right hand side. That means there will be white spaces ahead of the numbers. Okay, so this is called right justified fashion. Okay, this is printed in a right justified fashion. That means it will take 10 space and will be printed on the right hand side of the space. Yeah. If you want to print it in a left justified fashion, then you need to put minus whatever your format specifier is. Okay, in this case it was printing string, so 10s means it will take a total of 10 space and the string will take, in this case is taking 6 spaces, so there will be 4 white spaces. But in this case, instead of right justified format, it will be printed in a left justified format. Clear? So minus means it will be printed in a left justified format. Okay. And if you want to print, or you can also print these two together. So % minus 10s, % 10.2f. So % minus 10s means total it will take 10 space in a left justified format. So total is printed 4 space, and then 10.2f will be printed, but in this case it will be right justified format. Okay. So for example, if I print exactly this sentence, let's see how it will look like. Say, let's assume that price is equal to say 10.10 by 9. Okay, and if I print exactly the same thing, you will see that it is printed like this total. So it will, this total is going to be replaced minus 10s in a left justified format. So total will take 10 space and total is printed in the left hand side, and then 10.2f will be replaced by the price 10.10 by 9. So in that case it is printed in a right justified format. It will take a total of 10 space, including 2 digits after the point. Clear?